Good good evening. I'd like to call the City Council meeting of Monday, November 7th, 2022 to order. If I can have our city clerk please call the roll.
Mayor Flores.
Present.
And Deputy Mayor Tharp.
Present.
And Councilmember Noble.
Here.
And Councilmember Dugo.
Here.
Councilmember Diaz.
Here.
Councilmember Bousquet.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
All right, a motion made by Councilmember Diaz, second by Councilmember Bousquet. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion carries 5-0. All right, at this time, I'd like to invite anyone from the public who has any comments on any agenda item, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. All right, seeing no one, moving on to our special business. If I can have, we have a couple of proclamations in a presentation. If I can have our city clerk please read the National Hunger and Homeless Awareness Week proclamation.
Proclamation of the City Council of the City of Green Acres, Florida, proclaiming November 12th through the 20th, 2022 as National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week. The state of Florida ranks 15th in the nation for the highest homeless population, and 1 in 7 of the state's population struggles with hunger. The last Palm Beach County homeless point-in-time count in 2022 identified 1,404 individuals and families experiencing homelessness, and the Palm Beach County Hunger Relief Plan indicates that more than 300,000 residents struggle with hunger. The purpose of Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week is to educate the public about the many reasons people are hungry and homeless. Therefore, the City of Green Acres do hereby proclaim the week of November 12th through the 20th, 2022 as National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week in the City of Green Acres. Thank you.
And then if I can have Pamela Payne, she here today? I didn't think I saw her. But anyways, it's an honor to be able to present them with this, as they do a lot of great work out in our community. So it's always great to, I don't see her. It's always great to have those great partners in our community that represent us and do the right thing for our community. We also have another proclamation, World AIDS Day. If I can have our city clerk please read the proclamation by title.
Proclamation of the City Council of the City of Green Acres, Florida, proclaiming December 1st, 2022 as World AIDS Day. Worldwide, an estimated 38.4 million people are living with HIV, and an estimated 1.5 new infections occur in 2021, which is an estimated 4,100 new infections every day. Worldwide, 15% of persons with HIV don't know their status, and only 75% of persons with HIV who need life-saving antiviral therapy are currently assessing those medications. The Joint United Nations Program on HIV/AIDS observes December 1st each year as World AIDS Day and leads and inspires the world to achieve its shared vision of zero new HIV infections, zero discrimination, and zero AIDS-related deaths. Therefore, the City of Green Acres do hereby proclaim December 1st, 2022 as the World AIDS Day and urge all residents of the City of Green Acres to take part in activities and observe, designate, increase awareness and understanding of AIDS and HIV as a global challenge and urge residents to join the global effort to prevent further spread of HIV/AIDS. Thank you.
Excellent. I'd like to invite Ricardo Jackson, the CEO, and Natasha Etienne of Campbell Health Solutions to receive the proclamation. Oh, sorry. Austin can. No worries. If you want to say a few words.
Hello, everyone. My name is Natasha Etienne. I am a nurse practitioner who's been working in the Palm Beach County community, I would say, for about, let's say, for about like 8 years now, I would say. So I'm from Haiti and moved to Massachusetts probably right after high school. So I was trying to figure what to do really, because I just wanted to help. I mean, that's me. I was born growing, helping. That's what I'm seeing my parents been doing. But when I got up north, it was like a change. It's like, as people know, that different, areas. So I only saw myself in the healthcare. So I started from phlebotomist, doing labs, going up and doing, medical assistant, LPN, RN, going up, and then get my bachelor, master's, and I'm like, hey, I need to be a nurse practitioner to be independent and help people. And I work with the STD program before with different companies in Florida. I see the big needs. I see how we could help. I work with Richardo, the CEO of Campbell Company. So this guy, man, he will go like above and beyond to help people with HIV and AIDS. And now, what we're launching in Green Acres right now mostly is the prevention. We need to cut this. We need to get rid of this. The best way to do it for people who haven't had it yet is to launch that prevention, the PrEP, and people who already have it for us to treat this. So now, I just got my city with Green Acres here. I own a clinic right there at the Woodlake Plaza. And Richardo is in Palm Beach Lakes. So now that working together for a long time, he knows I work well with this group. He was like, Natasha, we have to have an annex at your place so we can help people. I said, yes, let's do it. And here I am today. He says, Natasha, this proclamation it's for your clinic. It's for Amazing Healthcare and Services, Inc. And the entire week this week, we're going to do free STDs for everybody in the community. Whoever want to come and get tested, I am there all week this week. So anybody want to stop by, it's going to be every day from 10 to 2 and 4 to 6, and on Friday, 10 to 1, from tomorrow until Friday. And I thank you all, everyone here, to proclaim me with Richardo tonight to continue doing this program. It's not going to be possible without you all. And thank you so much. I'm sorry for taking all this time.
All right. We have a presentation that I'm extremely proud to be presenting. But before that, we have a special person in the room today who dedicated 7 long years to this city. Someone who I think has shaped the future of the city in a very thoughtful manner, and someone who I associate with the city of Green Acres anytime I think of the city of Green Acres. And I keep looking at you, Kara. Yes, I am looking at you. Kara Ferris, if you can please come up here. Please join us, please. Kara notified us earlier this year that she's leaving her post at the city. She's going to dedicate some time to her family, and you can never go wrong when you do that, by the way. But we're definitely going to miss you. We're extremely proud of the work that you have done, and I think at the last meeting the council discussed recognizing you, and that's why we're here today, because I think you have played an integral role in guiding us to the point we're at today, and hopefully catapulting us to the next phase of this city. I know Andrew has a few words, so I'm going to let her speak, and I'll stop speaking now.
Kara, we know that the time is probably winding down for you doing work for us on an independent contract basis. So we wanted to recognize all your effort that you've made and all the things that you've contributed to the city in the time that you've been here. And I really believe that it has set the course for us on so many different levels. And we're very grateful for you. You know how I feel about you personally, professionally, and we're very grateful for everything you've done. I do, just real quick, when I first met Kara, it was shortly after I started here as city manager, and our previous director of planning would do all the presentations at the meeting. And Kara, she was the zoning administrator at the time, and she then started doing presentations. And I remember calling him up after the meeting. I'm like, oh my God, you have to have her read at every meeting. You have to have her talk. Her voice is so soothing. I want her to just record things for me and so that I can play them back, so that at bedtime she can read to me at night, because she just has such a soothing voice. So Kara, we are going to miss it, but you know that you are always family here, and we're always here if you ever need us. So thank you very much for everything.
All right. I thought that was a good surprise. We went a little rogue there for a second. All right, so this next one, not that long ago, we had a hurricane that hit the West Coast, and we were all tracking it to see what was going to happen. But as soon as we saw what the impact was on the West Coast, immediately we saw people that we have tons of respect for step up and automatically volunteer to go over there and help in whichever way that they could. And this is not a one-off. This is now the standard, I think, here at the city of Green Acres with fire and in the county with PBSO, the way that they just, every time something occurs in the state, they're willing to go up there. And once again, Green Acres Fire Rescue and PBSO stepped up. They raised their hand, and without hesitation, they decided that they were going to go and help those less fortunate than us in very devastating conditions. So I believe at the last meeting we discussed making sure that we recognize those individuals that were able to go over there to help those less fortunate. And we're extremely proud, and I'm speaking to all of you right now, I'm extremely proud of the way that you have represented Green Acres and our residents. And I think you're setting the standard for what it's like to be from our community. And we're extremely proud of the work that you do, and I feel that I speak on behalf of the city, not only the council, but also our residents. I couldn't be more proud of you. So anything else that you guys want to add? No? Okay. Absolutely. Thank you. So we're going to call each one of you one by one. I think it's only right to recognize you individually. All right. We're going to start with our fire rescue team, Deanna Albert. Dion Ambrogio. Wayne Kennemer. Justin Krivenek. Christopher Nault. Peter Tyler Woolwork. We're gonna do one big picture, right? Okay. All right, Captain Moore, can you join me up here? I would invite a chief, but I know he's staying away. Sergeant Fisher. Deputy Chief Morrison. Thank you. Deputy Sheriff Miller. Sergeant Lopez. Deputy Sheriff Filippo. Sergeant Altman. And Agent Weber. I think we may have to do two rows, right? Yeah. Come on over, guys. Two rows. Two rows.
I got the width of the table here, it's about all I got to work with. I'm just saying, there's a bunch of us.
This is about you guys.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
That's amazing.
All right, moving on to our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, I have a motion made by Councilmember Bousquet, second by Deputy Mayor Tharp. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion carries 5-0. I can't hear everyone. If you can speak to the mic so I can at least get the 5 votes.
Aye.
No, I got you. You made the motion.
Is this on?
Dang, I
All
have
right.
a loud mouth.
Moving on to our regular agenda, we have a public hearing for ordinance 2022-29, second reading. If I can have our city clerk please read the ordinance by title.
Ordinance 2022-29, second reading, amending Chapter 12 subdivisions and land development regulations, Article 3, improvements and design standards, Section 12-58, drainage by adding subsection 12-58K, imposing drainage requirements between properties, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, severability, inclusion in the code, and an effective date.
All right, and then we have our zoning administrator, Karen Gardner-Young, presenting.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. This is second reading of an ordinance regarding drainage. As we stated last time we were here, it's predominantly to address flooding considerations, particularly between residential properties. Staff has reviewed this. We've determined it is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the city's zoning code. The DRC had no objections to what was being presented. The City Council did hear this on October 17th, unanimously approved it with no changes. I'm prepared to make a presentation if you so wish. Otherwise, we would ask that the file be included as part of the record, and staff is recommending adoption of Ordinance 2022-29, ZTA 22-13.
Are there comments or questions from the council? Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Oh, it's a public hearing. I'd like to open public hearing for ordinance 2022-29. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the ordinance, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, and anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the ordinance, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, public hearing is now closed.
Motion to approve ordinance 2022-29 on second reading.
Second.
All right, I have a motion made by Deputy Mayor Tharp, second by Councilmember Bousquet. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion carries 5-0. And do I see Pamela Payne? All right, I'm gonna, we already read the proclamation by title, Pamela, but I still like to, I'll go down and I'll, obviously, I'll hand it over to you and I'll have you say a few words. How about that?
Apologize for being late. My next job, I'm going to run I-95.
Congratulations. Pamela, if you want to say a few words.
Just a couple. I was going to sing, maybe do a little dance, but basically what I want to do is thank you so much for recognizing November as Homeless and Hunger Awareness Month. We live in probably the most beautiful place on earth, but we're pricing ourselves out of it, and people are finding themselves unable to pay their rents and have enough money to put food on their tables. So by having this proclamation, it's going to help us bring awareness to the cause and hopefully let people know of the services that are available to them. So we will get this out on social media. We will let people know that there are entities out there that do definitely want to help, and we only see this problem escalating. For the Homeless Coalition, what we basically do a lot of is doing the first, last, and security for people who've gone through the Lewis Center and are ready to have a permanent home. What used to be $1,800 is now $2,900. What used to be $5,000 is $8,000 to $10,000. So we feel like we're spending more and helping less, and we need to make some changes. So thank you so much for this proclamation. We truly appreciate it, and I apologize for being late.
No worries.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for making it. All right, moving on to our next item here is the public hearing for ordinance 2022-23, first reading. If I can have our city clerk, please read the ordinance by title.
Ordinance 2022-23, first reading, amending Chapter 16 zoning regulations, Article 1, in general, Section 16-1, by amending certain definitions and adding definitions, further amending Chapter 16, Article 4, supplemental district regulations, Division 1, generally by adopting new Section 16-609 to be entitled Live Entertainment Permit, Section 16-610, to be entitled Outdoor Storage, Display Sales, Cooking and Sales of Propane Tanks, Section 16-611, to be entitled Placement and Use of Portable Storage Units, and Section 16-612, to be entitled Outdoor Seating, providing for complex severability, codification, and effective date, and for other purposes.
In presenting, Kara first.
Good evening. For the record, Kara Ferretz. Tonight I'm going to present to you a change to the supplemental regulations for the city. It is a public hearing, even though it's first reading, because we are affecting zoning regulations, technically accessory uses to individual uses that are in the code. So that requires a little more notification to the public that we're amending codes. So that's why typically we don't have a public hearing at first reading, but we'll be doing it tonight. So these are going to go over some issues that have come up through the years that needed to be addressed, and hopefully we'll address some issues that we're having. We've been trying to coordinate with different departments, police, code enforcement, fire rescue, the fire marshal, and put some regulations in place that give us a little more ability to have an impact on making sure people are doing things safely and doing things with their businesses that they're supposed to be doing. So the first thing in this text amendment, we're going to add some definitions relative to the language that we're adding. We're going to add a requirement for live entertainment permit. I'll go over that. We're also going to put in some regulations for outdoor sales, storage, cooking, and sale of propane tanks. We're going to talk about parking and storage of portable storage units or pods, and also outdoor seating regulations, which have currently not been in our code. So the first is definitions. We're just adding definitions for amplified sound, what a live entertainment permit will be, outdoor sales, outdoor storage, and portable storage units. We do this in our code all the time. Whenever we add new sections, we want to make sure that we define some of these words so that we can better utilize them and better explain to people why we're regulating things. So the first thing is live entertainment. We want to provide regulations, and really we want to protect the quiet enjoyment of adjacent properties. Until recently, there were different restaurants in the city that would have small entertainment, and it was kind of considered an accessory use, whether you had a guitar player or you had, one singer, or in some cases, these things got amplified to a DJ or a closed concert, and that's kind of where you go off the other side, where you're actually not just shifting or adding an accessory, you're shifting what the use is that you're supposed to be. If you're a restaurant and all of a sudden you're closing your doors and you're selling tickets for a concert, that's not a restaurant anymore. So, but they were kind of coming in under, well, we're allowed to have entertainment, and we're still a restaurant, we still have our tables here. So in this case, we're just creating these regulations to address issues that have come up over and over again in the city and give us some ways to have the uses that we want and to stop the uses or the, I guess it would be the abuse of, the uses that we don't want. So we don't currently allow nightclubs or concerts in the city. We have one venue in the city, that can do like parties or clubs, the American Legion Club, but they actually got approval for that type of use. In other cases, we're having restaurants, or in some cases, we even had a barber shop close its doors and become a nightclub at night, and that's just not allowable. So we're going to require, if you're having live entertainment, whether that's a DJ or a band, you have to get a permit for that use. Otherwise, when the police go in at night, if they get complaints at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, or 12 o'clock at night, if they don't have a permit for it, they can shut it down. And there's no question of whether or not it's an allowable use. So we're regulating the entertainment that's associated with it. We also are utilizing an existing process we have. The city has special events in the city where we do reviews of the special events. We're going to utilize the same type of process for the approvals of this type of use. There'll be limited hours of operation. They'll have a sound management plan. There is transferability. If an owner gets an approval to do this and they sell, they can transfer that permit as well. And there'll also be standard conditions of approval that we can regulate. And in many occasions, violations are irreparable because they violate the code, but then the event is over. So when you take them to code enforcement, they say, well, we're never going to have another event again. But that event that caused the problem is an irreparable event, so we're writing language in there to fine them up to $5,000. In many cases, this becomes important because a lot of times they will violate the code because they can make more at the door selling tickets than you would fine them. So it's kind of a cost benefit for them to continue the practice until you get the fines are up to a point where it hurts them to have the event. So this was a discussion between legal representation, police, fire marshal to try to figure out how to, because we've been dealing with some situations in the city where certain things like this are happening. So we are putting in a requirement for a live entertainment permit. The next, we are also putting some strong language in about outdoor sales, storage, and cooking outside. Most of our businesses, and it's pretty well established in the code that your business has to be within the enclosed space of your business, but sometimes retailers will bring out all their stuff onto the sidewalk, or we've had even a case where a kitchen caught fire and they opened up a grill out in the back alleyway, which is not an acceptable way to do business. So we had to write regulations also about that. In many cases in our code, individual uses within zoning districts have regulations that talk about no outdoor sales. So it's covered relative specific uses, but we're doing a general caveat with no outdoor sales or displays of goods. Now, this doesn't apply to certain types of uses that need outdoor sales. The car dealerships along Lake Worth Road, they have outdoor, their goods. I think at one point there was a golf cart dealership that was on Lake Worth Road. They would not be able to put their stuff inside. But those regulations are specifically written within a special exception type use for them to get approval for. So it is outside of, it's not covered under this. We also put regulations in for no cooking or grilling outside unless it's part of a temporary event. You know, when we have special events, there is some outdoor cooking. This does not cover that. That will still be allowed with outdoor events in parks or other places. This is just relative to commercial establishments not being allowed to, say, set up cooking facilities outside of the confines of their kitchen. And then we also put into regulations requirements for propane sales. Previously, we had done this through administrative approvals. So they're considered small-scale amendments to put, whether it's an ice vending machine or propane sales. These were done through site plan amendments. But at this point, we are writing into the code exactly what's required for them. So it's standardized, and they can be approved through a code amendment or through the code. The next are the parking and storage of portable storage units. If you live in a HOA or a POA, you probably have strong regulations in regards to pods or temporary storage. Some of our areas don't have HOAs or POAs, and therefore we thought it was time, because we are having some situations where some of the pods will show up. So we're setting regulations. Code enforcement, usually they'll go out and they'll say, I'll give you a couple days, and then you have to take it off. But you had some who just kept putting in temporary units, so we're actually writing regulations for it, so that when they don't do what code is asked, they can go through the code enforcement process to cite them for it. There will be time limitations. The code enforcement officer will have an opportunity to give them an extension. There will be location limitations. They can't put them in the front yard. They have to be on stabilized grade or a driveway. And there is a requirement for removal during hurricane events because they are not anchored to the ground. So these are becoming more popular. They'll drop them off in front of your home. You can load them up, then they'll come get them, but sometimes they stay longer than they should within communities. So this change will allow code enforcement to regulate these within neighborhoods when they get complaints. Next is outdoor seating. We do have some outdoor seating approved within the city. There's a difference between outdoor seating with service and outdoor seating without service. So if I go up to a counter and I get a sandwich and I can sit at a table out front, that's different than if I sit in an outdoor area and a waitress comes up and they provide me with the menu item, where they will serve me alcohol or they will serve me items from the restaurant. This became an issue during COVID, the initial shutdown. If you remember, we limited restaurants to 25 or 50%. We did allow a couple to open up some outdoor space on a temporary basis. They have been required to pull it back in. In recent years, you've also approved some non-service area for different fast food and gas stations. Racetrack, Wawa, the chicken place in front of Target.
Zaxby's.
Zaxby's, yes, thank you, has some outdoor seating areas where people can go and sit. Even the Dunkin' Donuts has a couple tables and chairs, and these were provided for in their site plan. It's approved on their site plan. So the reason this becomes an issue is sometimes you'll have businesses who see other people with it. They go out, they put out tables, they put out chairs, and that impacts ADA regulations for people being able to get by if they're in a wheelchair, or because a lot of our plazas are not set up with huge promenades. A lot of them have very minimum sidewalk widths between businesses, so when you put tables out there, it can impact people being able to get through. So it also expands the ability for a business to do business. More tables and chairs is kind of the way that you regulate not just how many seats, but parking requirements and also concurrency requirements for Palm Beach County. So if you're going to provide a large outdoor seating area, you have to make sure that it doesn't expand past the point where you have to add parking and you have to add approval through Palm Beach County's TPS, or Transportation Performance Measures. They do have a de minimis impact, so if it's a certain percentage of the business, Palm Beach County doesn't need to look at it. But if you get over that, then they're going to want to see what the impacts are, because it does expand the ability to do business and expands the impacts on, the parking and other things. So we have put in some regulations consistent with, Palm Beach County, the way they look at their de minimis, also making sure that there's distance requirements, that we're meeting ADA standards, and they would have to go through a process to get this approved. And there will also be regulations relative to hours of operation, storage, location, and screening of these items. So this wasn't really a big issue prior to COVID, but it has come up. We've noticed some businesses setting up tables, and in some places it's really inconvenient for people to get around. So we either have to put regulations in, or we can just say we don't want it. Previous to that, we had no regulations other than approved with a site plan. And we allowed it as long as the site plan showed that it met all of these regulations that we're currently going to be putting in the code. So overall, staff is recommending approval of ordinance 22-23. And this will help us to regulate some of the issues that have come up in recent couple years. And it'll be a lot of work on, it'll fall a lot on with code enforcement, some support from PBSO, and these are kind of things we're trying to put in place to to help with some of the issues that have come up. So we do recommend approval.
Thank you, Kara. Are there comments or questions from the council? Deputy Mayor Tharp.
Question for you with regards to food trucks.
Yes.
I guess, we see a lot of them pop up, not necessarily within the city, but where they just pop up on a weekend, they barbecue galore outside, and then they kind of disappear. So does this address that, prevent it, frown upon it? Or is that a different portion of the code that I...
It's a different portion of the code. So we do have regulations for commercial trucks, for food trucks, we call them. You can have them at events, at a park for an event. A couple years ago, the legislature kind of opened it up that they are allowed to come in your cities and go in your right-of-ways unless you regulate it. So we did write some regulations. Right now, the process is they have to have approval from a property owner. So, and where we encourage this are places that a lot of times if you're a property owner and you're the landlord and you're charging people rent for bricks and mortar in their restaurants, the likelihood of you letting someone set up on the corner to directly compete, it's not going to happen. You're going to get complaints from your... So a lot of times it'd be more appropriate in office plazas where you have kind of a captive audience. I know we've done it here at City Hall where staff can come out at lunchtime and get lunch. So they are allowed in the city, but they are regulated. So if they do pop up, they're probably an unincorporated, because the unincorporated kind of goes by the statutes. I think they have some regulations, but in the statutes, they kind of gave them the ability, they can do business in, in the right-of-way or on properties that give them permission.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dugo.
My question is on the very beginning, on the entertainment, the noise
Yes.
permit. Let's say the barber shop pulls the permit. How long is that good for? Or is it an event or every couple months?
Yeah.
How?
It depends on what they're getting approval for. So for the barber shop, that sounds like a special event to me. There's not usually, an accessory where you can have a live DJ or you can have.
Right,
But it's a great question because barbershops, salons, nail salons, they're now getting, putting in for licenses to serve alcohol, beer and wine.
Right.
So this is kind of popping up in a lot of places. So if I'm getting my toes done or I'm getting a massage, maybe they'll offer me a glass of champagne. And barbershops maybe will serve cocktails. So regulating entertainment becomes important. So they would have to get approval, and depending on how long, that would be part of the process.
Okay.
But normally your permit, I think, would last for a year, but we would want to know when you were doing it and what you were doing, what the purpose was. So what we're trying to stop is you can't advertise this as a rave,
Right.
and you can't change the nature of your business. You're still a barbershop. You're still
Right,
a restaurant. So you can't advertise out there or sell tickets at the door or do anything that changes the nature of your business in association with this permit.
Got it. Now I have one more question.
Okay.
I've been dialing 1-800-ASK-CARA for 10 years. Not fair. I'm going to miss you, Kara.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Uh,
I keep coming back.
At least for the second reading, at the very least.
Councilmember Diaz.
Thank you. My question was similar to Council Member Dugo's, and there's a lot encompassed in this one ordinance, so I have some reservations about certain parts of it. I do know we have some restaurants in the city that will offer like a dance night, like lessons, or they'll offer, on a Friday or a Saturday, they'll bring in like a DJ or live music. So I have concerns because it's been their model all along. And same question really. So if they come in, they get their permit for a year, what is what is that criteria? Is it that the kitchen's not closing? Is it like, what is the criteria that's required for them to keep in place in order to not violate what this is really?
It has to be an accessory to. And that's really the test, is are you shutting down your business in order to do a different type of business? If you're advertising a concert and you're selling tickets prior to, and you stopping people at the door for this live entertainment event, then the primary focus is the entertainment. It's not accessory anymore. That's what the people are there for. And in some cases, you have situations where, they have whole stages or DJs come in, and at 10:30 the kitchen closes. They push all the tables back in. Now it becomes a nightclub. That's a different type of business. So
I'd just be concerned with throwing the baby out with the bathwater, with some that are kind of like right there, that are on that edge, that have had these uses, entertainment and live music along with dinner, I've seen it a lot. There's a lot of restaurants that do offer that live music, especially on weekend nights.
Yes.
My concern is just, that we are not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater and penalize those that might be like right on the edge, and that the purpose of this ordinance is truly to get those that are, going completely outside the scope of what they were originally licensed for.
I think it is. I think you could just prohibit it down the line, and then that kind of throws out, the baby with the bathwater. No one can have it. But in this case, what we're trying to do is give people an opportunity. We did this with special event permits too, requiring special event permits if you're going to have maybe a big sale or a grand opening, and in many cases, you have some businesses that do maybe a couple things a year, and so we would just encourage them to do it under one permit. So tell us what it is, as long as you're informing us and we know, and we know that this event is happening, and we can talk to each other about what's going on this Saturday, or, you know, at the park this weekend, or at this restaurant, then that makes it easier for us to regulate it. And then you're informing them up front what's allowed and what's not allowed. A lot of times when the police go in, or they say, oh, we didn't know that. We didn't know we weren't allowed to do that, or we didn't know. So in some case, too, it's kind of a way to get information out and to let them know you're still allowed to do it, but here are the parameters that we've put in place so that you don't overly affect your neighbors. Or I know they were having issues many years ago with the Old Atlantis Gateway. They were having raves in there, and I think the neighbors adjacent to them, you know, when everyone would pour out at 2 a.m., they would stay in the parking lots, and so it becomes an issue, and you have to find ways to kind of to regulate it, but in some cases you will still want to let the primary business thrive.
I have one more question. What is, let's say that this, you know, obviously today's first, but let's say this does pass. What does the education side and the compliance side look like for our businesses that might already have those uses? That, like, how are we going to let them know, and how are we going to help them understand and bring them into compliance?
So in many cases, we make a change like this, we would send out letters, or in events where, you know, internally, it's an education between the different departments who go out there. In many cases, if it's a complaint, you know, the police will show up or code enforcement will show up, and then they'll talk to them first. They don't go in and, you know, take a hard line. They're saying, you don't have a permit, you need a permit. You're not allowed to do this other permit. Come in, we'll talk to you, and we'll help you through this process. Those are the best ways that we can inform and try to help people through the process when they're coming for their applications. I've spoken with many people through getting their applications in, helping them to, you know, to get the most bang out of their buck with their permits, you know, so they're not doing individual permits all year long. Maybe plan for a year, you know what you're going to do, you know what your holidays are, you know what your events are, and just plan for it before you come in to begin.
And what is the cost for the permit?
I believe right now it's $110 it might have gone up, you know, in the past couple months, but we also have one for signage, and that's an $80 permit, and then you have a special event permit too.
One more question.
What was that?
No, I have one more question.
Councilmember Dugo.
So this regards outdoor tables. For example, and I'm going to give the example of Pete's Restaurant, who over just the past maybe 5 years put a few tables outside. Maybe there's only 2 or 3. I don't think they did it to improve business as much as to make it comfortable for some people. So when you pull a permit for this, how do you determine whether there could be tables on a plaza's pedestrian area?
Yeah.
And if you did allow it, how do you curtail someone that says, you know what, I don't like them having those tables there, so I'm going to complain to the city. In fact, hurt a business's income. So
Number one, the plaza owner will have to sign off on it. So the owners themselves have to make some decisions about what they will and won't allow. I think just seating area, like if you're waiting for a table and you have somewhere to sit, that's different. If you have service provided to these tables and people with trays or plates are coming in and out through the same door that the customers are going in, that's different. And in some cases, I can guarantee you there will be a situation where we'll say, you can't fit a table and chairs in your pathway because then you can't meet ADA standards. And you're gonna cause roadblock issues, it's just doesn't happen. And then the other issue that they'll have to come up with too is, what do we want these to look like? Do we want them all to be the same? Do we want them to be able to put out, one's white, one's silver, one's... So I think in many cases, the property owner themselves will have to be involved. And then individual businesses will come in on their own.
So since we brought up Pete's Place, let's talk about that.
Okay.
So what does Pete Place have to do to conform with, because they serve food outside?
They do. Okay, so if you're talking, like I'm visualizing Pete's in my mind, 2-3 tables, it would probably be de minimis. So pretty much you have for each chair a certain amount of square footage. So usually it's about 10% of your space. So Pete's Place is a big portion of the plaza. So for a de minimis impact, 2 or 3 tables is not going to kick in the requirements for, Palm Beach County traffic or parking. But we will have to look at it to make sure that, he will have to get approval because he hasn't gone through any approval process if he does have it. He would have to go through a process just to make sure that you still have the required distance between the edge of the sidewalk and the table, so you're not cutting off the pedestrian flow within that plaza. And the plaza owner has to be okay with what's happening there as well.
So
We
that-
also,
So then they're gonna have to go through a whole new approval process. Well, an approval process, because,
If this is approved.
yes,
right.
yeah, more of an administrative process than a site plan review process.
And how often do they have to go for that renewal? Every year?
No, that once they get it approved, it's approved, as
Oh,
long as
that
they don't
particular one
add.
is approved.
Yeah. No, I don't think anyone has any approvals right now, other than maybe racetrack.
Duffy's once in a while has outdoor tables.
Yeah. I think the reason this comes up is because a lot of people did it during COVID because they were limited in how many tables. But that emergency order's over. We have to regulate it. So code enforcement can go out now and tell everybody to put their tables back in their restaurants, because that's what our code says right now. They don't have approval for it. And that's one option. I mean, this is something, you could just strike this from the ordinance. You have like different sections. If you don't want to regulate it, you don't have to regulate it or allow it.
I think that's my problem is I'm fine with the entertainment. I get the noise factor. I get the disruption there. I just think there's too much in this particular ordinance regarding outdoor seating and some of the other things. That's what's making me uncomfortable with this.
There are different sections if you want certain areas to come back on their own to discuss it. It was kind of written that way if you go back.
Yeah,
Yeah, you, so you
I have
have,
no problem with most of this.
And my other question is live entertainment. Like I think what Councilmember Diaz was alluding to, the restaurants that do things on the weekends. Is that considered an event? Or is that considered like a one-time permit and once they, because they're not changing, let's say it's a restaurant, they're not changing their business as I'm understanding your explanation. They just do that as an add-on, but they're not charging for it, then that's okay.
well, if you're going to have live entertainment, whether it's a DJ, I mean, it says live entertainment, a DJ is considered live entertainment, just to be clear. If you're having live entertainment within your facility in an enclosed building, then yes, you have to get a permit for it. You have to get a live entertainment permit.
But is it a one-time permit, or is it like something that you have to constantly renew?
It could be both. If you are a business person that plans ahead, in April, July, and August, we're going to invite dancers and, a guitar player in, they're going to, dance, and they're going to, if you have your events planned for the year, a lot of businesses do, they could do it under one permit for the year. But if you don't plan like that and you decide you want to do something, you would do them separately.
How about if you do it weekly?
Yeah.
If you do it weekly, you'd still have to meet our requirements.
One time, though.
Yeah, we're not taking away the right to have entertainment, to have a guitar player, to have, what we're trying to do is put in regulations that stop the, changing the venue completely.
Right, but if it's a weekly, going back to Councilmember Nobles, how often are they renewing this permit? Is it
Every year.
So once a year.
So if I know I'm going to have, entertainment once a week, you can write that into the permit. But your entertainment, it will be reviewed what you're going to do. And if you step outside of that, if we get a complaint and we come and you've got a bouncer at the door and you've got, all the tables are gone and it's acting as a nightclub, then that's when we know you're not living up to the requirements of your permit, and they can shut it down.
Okay, I
And
agree.
they
with
go
that.
to code enforcement.
I think that's fair on both ends.
Yeah.
I just don't want them having to pull permits every month or every week.
No, we understand there are, it's been an accessory use for a long time for people to have some sort of entertainment. Some of our bars even have little stages where they have a guitar player. The problem comes when you have a business that changes the nature of the business. It becomes a different principal use.
Right.
You've now become a venue. You're not a restaurant anymore. So that's really what we're trying to stop.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the council? Do I have a motion?
Public.
Motion to
Oh, this is the public hearing. So I'd like to open public hearing for ordinance 2022-23 for first reading. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the ordinance, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the ordinance, please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Not in opposition. I've actually not done this before, but am I allowed to make a public comment on
You can. Yep.
on this? My name is Aaron Taylor. Arc Development Global is my company. I don't actually live in Green Acres, but I've done several projects here. And I've run across this situation. I used to do code revisions for Palm Beach County. And a lot of what she's talking about has been several municipalities that have struggled with this issue because you have those what they call legal non-conforming businesses who've been operating for the last 20 years and everybody loves it, never had an issue. And then you got the other people who come in trying to do something that is completely opposite of, it's like they're coming under the guise of one thing but really doing something else. And one of the ways, I didn't get a chance to see the ordinance, it's my first time hearing this, but one of the ways that's been addressed in some of the code revision that's been done is on the permit itself, so that you don't always have to revise the code, because that's a very difficult thing to do, is on the permit itself, giving staff the flexibility. When the person comes in, they have to provide a floor plan of their tenant space, and they have to designate on that plan the area where their indoor entertainment is going to be located. So if they have a stage or a dancing area, they have to limit that to, I can't remember, some people have 20%, some people have 30% of the floor area. They also have to show like their their hours of operation for that event. So most restaurants may close at 10 or 11 o'clock, but for this special event, you have to close by, 1 or 2 o'clock or whatever it is. But it gives your staff the teeth they need not to punish the people that are already operating the proper way, but also gives them the teeth to hold people accountable, because they said, here's when we're going to close, here's what we're doing, here's how often we're doing it, here's our floor plan and a percentage, so that if they're ever outside of that percentage, it is already codified in something they signed on the permit for your staff to review. So just a suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we do that? When they ask for the permit, do we already have the floor plan?
It's in our special event process. They have to show us where they're doing everything and what they're doing, and yes. And we can do conditions of approval too.
Excellent, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor or in opposition of the ordinance, please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Nathan Galang from Santa Catalina Place. This is my first time hearing about the ordinance. I paid attention to the thing, and there are just certain scenarios that I feel like are a bit overly complicated by the ordinance that I don't think are exactly necessary if there hasn't been like a major issue in the city. Speaking on, for example, it was already spoken on the tables. I don't think anybody's really complaining about certain restaurants having some tables outside. The issue about the parties at Atlantis Gateway that was brought up, I live adjacent to Atlantis Gateway. I was personally never bothered by any events going on there. In fact, I think those events were probably important moneymakers for the business. So I'm curious if this ordinance could potentially harm those businesses and that way of making money. And also the mention of the barber shop. I mean, I don't know if a business is able to provide those services and it brings money. It sounds like it's good for the city that our businesses are succeeding. I think maybe the issue at hand is that the code needs to be more simplified rather than buffed up regarding this, and that's all I have to say on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor or in opposition of the ordinance? Seeing none, public hearing is now closed. All right,
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-23 on first reading.
Second.
all right, I have a motion made by Deputy Mayor Tharp, second by Councilmember Busquet. Are there any other comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
All right, that motion carries 3-2. All right, and let the record show that Councilmember Dugo and DS descended. All right, moving on to quasi judicial public hearing for resolution 2022-47. At this time, I'd like to ask our zoning administrator, Karen Gardner-Young, to read the quasi judicial hearing process instructions.
I apologize, Mayor, I took it out of this one. Let me see if I've got it. Hold on.
No worries. We got all night. No, I'm just kidding.
World Series is over.
Give me 1 second.
You don't have them, right, Quinn? The instructions? No. All right, well, why don't we take a 3-minute recess? And we can get back here in about 3 minutes.
What can you do in 3 minutes? You can't even.
Not yet. Yeah, not yet. Yeah, me too. For which one? For the, no, I didn't know you had to buy tickets.
I was on the website today, just telling somebody else. Got a warning on the site. You must buy tickets in advance. This event will sell out. No tickets at the gate.
Is your mic on?
See, I'm glad you said something.
Wow.
I'll take care of that. I'll do it this week. I'll do it this week. I didn't know that at all. I'll do it this week. Because I'm also going to do for the Christmas Bazaar as well.
The next night?
Mm-hmm.
I've done that. That event is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You gotta get the spiced mulled wine.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna do that one as well. Spice milk. Okay. It's good?
It's served warm.
Yeah.
And they put some sort of mulling spices in it.
We took a 3-minute break.
Oh, I was going to say, I knew exactly where it was, but thank you, Mayor. I apologize.
No, I'm glad you said something because I didn't even think about that. I was just gonna buy them. I wasn't.
This is what we normally read.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad you said something.
I'm trying to drum up interest in my office.
Yeah, no, I'm
I gotta
definitely
put my
doing it.
neighbors involved.
I'm definitely doing it. Actually, I'm gonna be meeting with Denise.
Says I'm good.
One of us had it. So let me bring down another one just in case.
No problem. Perfect. Sorry. We're good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah, is that in November? Yep.
Which is just a bonus.
I agree 100%. Totally agree. Yep, totally agree.
Dinner.
Oh, okay.
Everybody back?
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
All right. We're gonna reconvene our meeting here. We are at the quasi judicial public hearing, for resolution 2020.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, we are back. We're reconvening our meeting. We're at the quasi judicial public hearing for resolution 2022-47. If we can have our zoning administrator, Karen Gardner-Young, please read the quasi judicial hearing process and the instructions.
Thank you, Mayor Council. Karen Gardner-Young on behalf of the City of Green Acres, and I apologize, first time I'm doing one of these in front of the council. All right, tonight we're holding a quasi-judicial hearing on the following case. SE 2202, 3757 South Military Trail, ALFA-G Arcade. This means that the City Council is required by law to base its decision on the evidence contained in the record of this proceeding, which consists of the testimony at hearing, the materials which are in the official city file on this application, and any documents presented during this hearing. The City Council is also required by law to allow cross-examination of any witnesses who testified tonight. Cross-examination may occur after the staff, the applicant, and other participants have made their presentations and will be permitted in the order of the witness's appearance. It is necessary that anyone who testifies at this hearing remain until the conclusion of the hearing in order to be able to respond to any questions. All who attend to offer testimony this evening on any of the matters should be sworn in.
Excellent. At this time, I'm going to ask the clerk to administer the oath.
Those who will be providing testimony, please stand and raise your right hand. And do you affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you. And if I can have the city clerk, please read the ordinance by title, the resolution, I should say.
Resolution 2022-47, approving the petition for a special exception to allow a 2,016 square foot indoor recreational amusement use in a commercial intensive zoning district located at 3747 South Military Trail, and requested by the petitioner Aaron Taylor, agent for the owner, 3757 South Military Trail LLC, providing for repeal of conflicting resolutions and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This time, we're going to ask the council to disclose any ex parte communications. Going to start with the Deputy Mayor Tharp.
None.
Councilmember Noble.
None.
None for myself. Councilmember Dugo.
None?
Councilmember Diaz.
None.
Councilmember Busquet.
None.
All right, this time I'd like the applicant to come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you can begin your presentation.
Aaron Taylor, Arc Development Global for the owner. Excuse me. May I begin? Okay. As mentioned, this is for Alpha G Arcade Indoor Amusement, SE 2022 or SE 2202. Please, next slide. I'm just going to give a brief project history. The site is an existing plaza at 1.045 acres. The zoning is commercial intensive with the same as the future land use. It's also commercial intensive. The existing use was a vacant retail general commercial center, and the proposed use is indoor amusement. The original indoor amusement was already in this plaza, and it was approved under Resolution 2016-41. It was in another bay. It just moved 3 bays down, and the owner was unaware that he actually needed to have a separate approval because there's already an approval for it in 2016. Got a code enforcement violation for doing so at some point in time before I got involved. You will see here, I put the old location under the item number 1. It says original approved arcade location under 2016-041. That was the original approval. And it just relocated 3 doors down. Before, when this was approved in 2016, you guys did not have a regulation for transitional area, separation between residential and the indoor amusement use. But you do now, and by moving, they're actually more in compliant than they were before. The transitional area you guys require in your code is 100 linear feet minimum between residential areas, and now they're 116 linear feet from the residential area to the west. Excuse me. Next slide, please. The bay that they moved into, they didn't knock out the walls or anything. It was a previous cigar shop. So other than moving in their machines, and they changed I can't remember like what you call that, the POS counter and there were some electrical wires that were hanging from the ceiling when they first moved in that they did get pulled into the wall, but they didn't pull a permit for it. They had a violation for that, which has been resolved. They did pull a permit for it. Nothing as far as the operation is going to change. They are still required to meet all the Florida statutes. They have not increased their number of machines. They still require to have a minimum of 50. Their hours of operation are only 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Their peak occupancy is 20 to 25. I've been in there 3 or 4 times, and I've not seen more than 6 people. And the number of employees is 2. There's one lady in there, and the owner comes in periodically. My eyes are not so good, so I cannot read all that conclusion. Give me just a second here. The existing relocated arcade use is compatible with CI zoning district, so it does comply with the zoning of future land use in your code. The proposed use complies with all the provisions outlined in Green Acres Policy PD0-002MM Internet Cafe. Also reference Section 16737 2F and the previous approved resolution 2016-41. The relocated use now exceeds the 100-foot separation criteria for the transitional area from residential uses. The proposed use will still comply with the Florida statute 546.10 in the fact that it must be games of skill, no cash payouts, minimum of 15 machines, there's no alcohol be served. I already went over the hours of operation, and there are no negative impacts to the existing area. I mean, the only reason they got a code enforcement violation is because they didn't realize that they, actually, I think they came in for a business tax receipt or something like that, and they realized that they couldn't get it because they had to get another special exception. So that's why I'm here. The special exception is specific to the location, and since they moved the location by default, they had to get another approval. I'll open the floor to any questions by the
Thank you. I'm going to ask that we hold our questions until we have our staff do the presentation. And that'll be led by zoning administrator Karen Garner-Young.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. As stated, this is a request to allow an indoor recreational amusement use, basically an adult arcade. Doesn't have, nobody under the age of 18 is restricted. It is within a commercial intensive zoning district, and it probably looks familiar because this is at least the second time around that they've come forward to us. So the second request was administratively withdrawn for lack of activity. It was a completely different applicant, not the applicant company, but the agent was different. So this is the first time Aaron Taylor is in front of you for this particular matter. So staff did take a look at the materials submitted. We've determined that the petition does meet the criteria for approval of a special exception with conditions. As was stated by Aaron Taylor, there was a previously approved special exception for this particular entity. They're just moving it actually further away from residential. It's going closer to military. I believe my understanding, they did that because the space was bigger. Not that they were adding more machines, it's the same machines, but just obviously doesn't seem as closed in. So the criteria and findings you have to find for specific special exception criteria. A number of the items we looked at is no change. The ingress egress doesn't change, the screening and the buffering isn't changing, we're not moving the building, so the yards and the open space requirements not changing, the refuge area is remaining the same. Some of the items we also took a look at that need to meet the code requirements, for example, the signage and exterior lighting. We also made sure that it was consistent with the district regulations. We took a look whether it was compatible. Again, we felt it was compatible with the neighboring properties. Military obviously is busy. To the north is not residential. To the south is not residential. It's only to the west. And again, this particular use is enclosed within the building. It doesn't go outside. There's no outside activities. And we are moving it further away from those areas that may impact our residents. We didn't feel it was out of scale with the needs of the neighborhood. So, however, as Kara stated in a previous, we don't just take it for what it is on face value. We look and determine if there should be conditions of approval to make sure that we are addressing what we consider any impacts that could come from the use that is permitted as a special exception. So we implemented basically 5 what I consider conditions, the total 17, but we did limitations on the hours, the type of use, the square footage, no alcohol, and must be over the age of 18. We also said on marketing that they must obtain their BTR. I think actually, Aaron, it was 2 reasons why we realized it was not only the BTR, but signage went up. And so we caught them on both of those. Design, we also want access to go through the front space. They're not coming in the rear or a different door. And we also wanted to make sure that the aisles were wide enough particularly for handicap and ADA compliance. But we also had activity if anything is illegal or not in compliance with state statute, the city is going to be indemnified. And we are requiring temporary use permit, I know I said TUP, temporary use permit, for outdoor activity. So if they're going outside, it's not permitted, they would have to get some sort of permit, which we would be able to pull if they didn't do something that was legal. And lastly, state statute does govern this type of activity, and as the applicant has stated, Florida statutes 546.10 must be complied with. The Development Review Committee did take a look at this petition. They met on September 9th and 15th. They had no objections. This did go to the Planning Zoning Board of Adjustments, and they recommended approval with staff's proposed 17 conditions of approval. The conditions of approval were sent to the applicant. I believe the applicant has no objections to the conditions of approval as stated by staff.
That is correct.
Thank you, sir. And so staff is recommending approval of SC 2202 with the 17 proposed conditions. The previously provided code violations have been addressed by the applicant. As the applicant has stated, the electrical items were reviewed by the building department. The only other outstanding was the sign, which they have not installed. They're waiting for approval tonight in order to be able to proceed with that sign permit. We ask that the documents be included as part of the public record, as well as any testimony from tonight. And should you have any questions or concerns, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from the council? I'm going to start. What has happened since they were found in violation? Have they been closed since?
Actually, I believe they have been operating. Aaron, maybe you can address that.
So when I, excuse me, I got hired because I worked on some previous indoor entertainment uses before by an attorney that referred me to the client, and they were already in. Apparently, at some point in time, they had another architect who was bringing this before to get approved as special exception. They were operating at the time that I got there, and they've operated since because they couldn't really close down per se. I mean, it's a guy with a wife and 2 kids, but since I got involved, I don't know really, I never spoke to the previous architect and understood why he dropped the ball or why it got withdrawn or why he couldn't follow through, because if I remember correctly, reading through the staff report, they were actually coming before you guys to be heard, and they didn't get their property appraisers list or something like that for the 300-foot notices in time, and by legal reasons they couldn't do it, and the guy just fell off the face of the earth. So I took over. Since I got involved, the violations that I found out about, we've resolved every one. The only one we can't resolve is the sign one. It was submitted almost a month ago. It's actually ready to be approved, but they can't physically approve the sign until after the hearing. So, but we did get the permit for the electrical for the sign, and I took care of everything as it came up, but they did operate, so.
Thank you. I guess this question is for staff. Since they were here last time, they've been allowed to continue to operate even though they don't have a permit?
So we do have a code case. So that has not been dropped, obviously, based upon the fact that this activity needs to be approved or not approved. Mayor, typically what happens is if a applicant is coming through on a petition in order to authorize activity, we don't usually take action at that point because they're coming forward. And as the petitioner here tonight has stated, in this particular action, once Aaron got involved, he came forward and started taking care of all the violations. And while they were in the process of taking care of these violations, which was a very short time period since you've been involved, we felt at that point we did advise them to stop the activity. Again, it goes back to the time it takes for us to stop the activity. would be probably beyond the point that we're here tonight, because we can't just shut it down. Our action is on the code violations, which we obviously still have active and can take action if we want to proceed with that. If that is the desire, we can certainly do that. But I think the thought was they were taking affirmative action to correct the problem, and you want to continue to encourage that activity.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the council? All right, at this point in time, I'd like to open public hearing for a quasi-judicial hearing. Public hearing, Resolution 2022-47. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the ordinance, of the resolution, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the resolution, read your name and address for the record. Public hearing is now closed.
I'd like to
All right.
make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-47.
Second.
All right, a motion made by Councilmember Dugo, second by Councilmember Bousquet. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
It's getting cold in here.
All right, moving on to Resolution 2022-60. If I can ask our city clerk to read it into the record.
Resolution 2022-60, authorizing the execution of an interlocal agreement between the City of Green Acres and Palm Beach County pursuant to Chapter 171.046 Florida statutes, providing for the annexation of a portion of an enclave totaling approximately 7.9636 acres located at 4148 South Jog Road, 4080 South Jog Road, 4020 South Jog Road, 6492 Lake Worth Road, 6350 Lake Worth Road, and 6323 Lake Worth Road, providing for transmittal to the Palm Beach County Board of County Commissioners for subsequent action and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, and we have City Consultant Kara Erwin Ferris presenting.
Good evening, Kara Erwin Ferris for the record. Before you tonight is the Lake Worth Plaza West out parcels and the Shell Station Enclave Interlocal Annexation. This is the next phase to bring in the parcels at this southeast corner of the intersection of Lake Worth Road and South Jog Road, as well as one parcel on the north side of Lake Worth Road, which becomes an enclave with the annexation of the Lake Worth Plaza West. So tonight we're here before you to approve an interlocal agreement, like the interlocal agreement we did for the interlocal service boundary. But this will also go to Palm Beach County if it gets approved by City Council. And this is something that the statutes allow us to do an annexation through a legislative means for areas under 110 acres. The law used to limit it to 10 acres. Going up to 110 acres has really helped us. In the past years, we've pulled in quite a few enclave interlocals. So in areas that are considered enclaves, which means you're completely surrounded by the city on all your sides, then the county and the city can come together and have these areas annexed through an interlocal agreement. So the six parcels are outlined in red, and the boundary of the city is outlined in blue, and the parcel Lake Worth Plaza West that we recently annexed is in yellow. So once we annexed Lake Worth Plaza West, these out parcels and the parcel across the street, Shell Station, became enclaves, which means they're either completely surrounded, there's a couple tests, they're completely surrounded by the city, or in order to get into and out of their businesses, they have to drive completely through the city before they can get to the county. And in the cases of the out parcels, all but one only have access through the plaza and do not have direct access, actually all but two, do not have direct access out onto the roads. So the two ways that you look at whether it's an enclave surrounded or limited their access. So in coordination with the county, we put together an interlocal agreement. These are 6 parcels. They make up about 7.96 acres in total. As part of the enclave interlocal, we directly notify the property owners. So we do this through the Palm Beach County property appraisers. So by law, we are required to send them notice to their owner's address, which they put in the appraiser's website. But we also sent notifications to the physical buildings as well. We wanted to make sure that we sent them notice whichever way we could that they were being a part of this enclave interlocal. They received the date tonight of the hearing. They also received the date of the proposed hearing for Palm Beach County, which the county is tentatively scheduling for December 20th, considering the outcome of tonight's meeting. We did create the interlocal with Palm Beach County. We do have a letter of support from Palm Beach County. They did provide conditions. These conditions were set forth from the ISBA relative to fire rescue, and also they have some county policies about taking over lights, street lights within annexed areas, and there are 4 street lights we'll be taking over on Jog Road. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this interlocal on December 20th, 2022, and that is the tentative date that their staff gave if we adopt tonight. And as I said before, notices were sent to all owners, address, and building addresses. Part of the reason why we can do this through an interlocal and an alternative legislative is because there are no registered electors. We've done all kinds of annexations here now. We even did a referendum where registered voters voted and came into the city. So as far as you're the only city I've ever worked for that's done every kind of annexation that the statute allows for. So congratulations. And then staff recommendation is approval of Resolution 2022-60.
Are there any comments or questions?
Yes, I have one.
Councilmember Busquet?
Kara, it's so fitting that you're here to read this to us. This has been a long time coming. Long time coming. So thank you. It's another feather in your cap and Mrs. McHugh. So thank you.
Second her motion.
Oh, a motion to approve.
All right. Councilmember Noble, is that a motion?
She's making the motion, right?
Did you make a motion, Councilmember Busquet?
Well, not really, but I would.
Okay, then let's make a motion.
Motion to approve Resolution 2022-60.
And I second it.
All right, have a motion motion made by Councilmember Busquet for Resolution 2022-60, second by Councilmember Noble. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Kara. And our last item tonight is the ratification of the Building Board of Adjustments and Appeal Board. We have Andrea McHugh presenting.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a board where we've had some issues over the, I would say, well, in my time here, we've had some issues with keeping this board full of members just based on the criteria and some of the things that we look for board members. This board is one where they hear appeals on decisions made by the city building official and the fire marshal interpretation. So there are some specific criteria that we look for with respect to being on the Building Board of Adjustments and Appeals. In your packets in the item summary, there are normally 9 members that's required to be on the board. Currently, we have 6 applications that we've received. The building official did make contact with those that did apply and express interest in the Building Board of Adjustments and Appeals. So we do have 6 that we're asking. Staff is recommending ratification from the council from those 6 that are included in your packet. And as we receive other applications and they meet the criteria that the city requires for this board, we will bring those recommendations forward as well.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from the council?
I'd like to move approval of ratification of item, is it a number? Oh, I guess ratification of the Building Board of Adjustments and Appeal.
Second.
All right, have a motion made by Councilmember Diaz, second by Councilmember Busquet. Are there any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion carries 5-0. Oh, sorry. I don't know why I did that. Discussion items, I don't see there's any tonight. Comments from the public on any items or non-agenda items, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hello. Okay, so, I just wanted to come and talk.
Name and address for the record.
My apologies. Nathan Galang, from Santa Catalina Place. Just wanted to come and speak again on the issue of housing, and initially I wanted to do a bit more of an upbeat exchange of ideas, but if you heard of a recent news, I don't think that's exactly appropriate. Lakeview Gardens here in Green Acres was completely without power for over half a month, putting at risk the lives of people ranging from babies to the elderly. Christian Jimenez, a tenant of that community, tried to reach out to the building owners in Boca Raton. He went to their office to figure out how to contact the president, and they told him to find it himself, and they slammed the door on his face. If you see the news report, I'm sure many of you have, it's gut-wrenching to see a mother crying about the fact that her baby who has health issues is in danger because, in her words, it's hotter in the house than outside in the Florida sun. And you know how hot it gets out there. Only after the news reported on the issue did we finally see some change with the power coming back on, but even then the management company, Crest Management, was nowhere to be found. They did not bring the power back on. They weren't involved in the process, and you know they don't want to take responsibility, so I don't even know if they should be the proper owners, but that's for another time. The main thing I want to say today is that we shouldn't let this story go unnoticed or be forgotten. I'm not mad at the staff of the city council. They're not omnipresent. They can't possibly know every single issue. But what I want to emphasize is that this is not an isolated incident. Most people facing poverty, abuse, and exploitation by certain landlords, building owners, and banks simply do not have the opportunity to have it shared on TV. You know, I've been with farm workers facing eviction, single mothers with nowhere to go. You know, we need to recognize this as a wake-up call and, you know, recognize that this situation where housing is an investment instead of a home doesn't work, will not work, and has never worked. People shouldn't have to have half measures to give them hope, like certain bonds that leave out 40% of people in Palm Beach County and 66% of American workers that make less than $55,000 a year. We need to do something to lower costs and prevent situations like we saw in Lakeview. I've given recommendations before to others that we should look at affordable public housing. If we can invest in the construction of a beautiful city hall, of our community centers, of our public parks, along with the maintenance of those places afterwards, then I think we can do the same for housing. I think that will bring competition to the market, that will force certain landlords to compete with affordable and high-quality housing. I think we can do it, we should do it, and we will do it if we have the courage to stand up to those people and tell them that Green Acres is not for sale. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
We don't usually respond to these things, but I must
Councilmember
respond.
Muscat, I'm going to ask you to leave it for your comments, please.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to make comments on non-agenda items? All right, seeing none. We're going to move to our city manager's report. City Manager McHugh.
Thank you, Mayor. Talking about Lakeview Gardens, just a couple comments that I wanted to make related to Lakeview Gardens. That was a situation that was brought to the attention of the city on the 31st of October. There were several people involved in that process. We were very grateful that the power was able to be restored to the residents on Thursday. I believe it was that Thursday. And I just want to thank our public information officer, our building official, our inspector, and our code supervisor, because they played a critical role in helping to get the power back on and some housing, some temporary housing for those that could not get the power back on immediately. So we were very grateful. Additionally to that, we are planning on having the nonprofit that offered assistance for the housing for those units that were not able to be put back online right away. They paid for hotel stays for those families, and the electrical company that actually saw the story on the news and came over, and they were the ones that did provide temporary power. So we are grateful. We're hoping that we'll be able to recognize them at our December meeting. Just wanted to be able to put something together for that. So I wanted to comment on that, and then I do have a couple of just reminders for some events. We do have a couple of events that are tentative for this week, just pending the outcome of where this storm tracks. We are in communication with Palm Beach County. All the information that we're receiving is that it will make landfall as a Category 1 hurricane. I believe it has been upgraded to a tropical storm at this point. The Palm Beach County is tracking the sheltering, the evacuations, all of those things. So they are taking the lead at this time, and they are providing information to the municipalities. The school district has not closed schools yet at this point, but we are waiting to hear more from them, more than likely first thing tomorrow morning as the storm continues to form and develop. So as internally as staff, all of our departments have reviewed their emergency management plans. They are doing everything that we need to do from a city perspective, whether it's inspectors going out to construction sites to make sure that things are secured and everything is taken care of there, to our Public Works Department, making sure all the drains are cleared, all of those things. So we are on top of all of those things. We will keep you apprised of information as we get it from Palm Beach County. That being said, we do have on the calendar a community conversation for Wednesday, the 9th, from 6:30 to 8 p.m., and that discussion is surrounding developmental disabilities. That's at the community center, and then in addition to that, we do have our Veterans Day program, which is this Friday at 9 a.m. at City Hall. So those are all going to be pending whether or not, how the storm tracks, so we will keep you posted on that. Outside of that, I don't have anything additional. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to, are there any comments or questions for our city manager? No. Moving on to the city attorney's report, Attorney Torcivia.
No report other than glad to be back.
Excellent. We're glad to have you back, Glenn.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I do have two more things. I apologize. My screen went black and it didn't accept my password the first time. Holiday in the Park, we are going to be doing that December the 3rd from 5 to 9 at the community park. The toy drive for Estero, that is one that we talked about at the last council meeting. We are collecting toys for that through the 2nd of December. They will be delivered over there by the city. And I just wanted to recognize PBSO. PBSO did have a donor that donated $5,000 to the city towards toys, so we were able to fill probably 10 shopping carts of toys. So we're truly grateful for that, but we are still accepting toys or donations through the 2nd of December. I think that's, and lastly, our next meeting is scheduled for November the 21st, but that is the week of Thanksgiving. We're recommending canceling that meeting and then having the meeting on December the 5th.
Do we need consensus for that, or are we good?
If just consensus that we can cancel that meeting, then that would be great.
Anyone opposing December 5th meeting? Nope. All right, so our next meeting is December 5th. Is that all?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the mayor's and city council's report. I'm going to start to my left. Councilmember Bousquet.
Thank you. I just want to add to, Mrs. McHugh said just about everything I wanted to say, but I do want to thank Mrs. McHugh, Austin Lee, our building official, our fire marshal. The moment they got that phone call, for Lakeview Gardens, they were on the site. They were on the site for 2 days until everything was resolved, everybody had a place to go or power in their homes. This is not an apartment, it's a condominium, by the way. So just thank you, everybody. You did an amazing job. I was really proud. You made me cry, so you really did a great job. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Diaz?
Yes, I have several thank yous as well. I'd like to start with thanking zoning administrator Gardner Young and her team. She hosted the 2 comprehensive plan workshops for our residents, and we had some good participation at both, I understand, and some great things. Also would like to thank Ms. Thompson and Ms. Aviles for the read for the record. My understanding is that we may have, I know we more than doubled our number from last year, but we might have been close to tripling the number of students that we read to this year. So Nigel and the Moon, great book, really recommend it. I too would like to thank our city manager, McHugh, Mr. Lee, Mr. Wood, our code officers, inspectors, fire marshal, above and beyond. That's all I can say is you all went above and beyond, and we are so grateful for your service and what you've done. And Ms. Irwin Ferris, thank you. You taught me a lot in a very short time. I did not have the pleasure of working with you for very long, but in the time that I have worked with you, I cannot thank you enough for all that you've done and all the help that you've been. So thank you.
Councilmember Dugo.
I can only reiterate, thank you, everyone.
Councilmember Noble.
I think what the city has achieved is remarkable, outstanding, and shows what an excellent organization we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Tharp.
Again, I think that the thank yous are from all of us, and Ms. McHugh, I absolutely look forward to seeing Simon Electric and Healing Hearts Foundation at a future meeting. I think it's great when the community steps up. It was an issue. Staff responded, amazingly, but to have, some of our residents and people who work within the community step up is a testament to what we are. So thank you.
All right, and for the mayor's report, I'm actually looking forward to continuing the conversation regarding the comprehensive plan and the data gathered, the feedback gathered from our residents, and hopefully we can provide some input as well. I had a few people reach out to me that obviously couldn't make it, but obviously want to relay the message that I kept hearing. I do want to talk about Lakeview. I don't think this is something that the city took lightly. It's definitely something that I didn't take lightly. I'm very proud of, how we rolled up our sleeves and we took care of business and, we worked as a team, and that's great. But I guess the greater message that I want to put out there is that I will not tolerate scumlords in the city. And if there are situations like this that come up, I am willing to do whatever it takes to get them out, or whatever it is that we have to do. But this situation was unbearable for people since October 20th. When I finally heard of it and the response from the company that runs them and the owner's absence, I was the one that got the media involved. And this is a message for anybody out there doing idiotic things like this. If I have to report you to the news, I have no problem doing that. And it's sad that it took almost 2 weeks later, news report, for us to finally get the help that we needed. But if we need to do that, I'm okay. I am okay reporting people and making them look bad in the public eye. It doesn't matter. I mean, these were 20 families. There were kids in extreme heat. And you shouldn't do that to people, especially when you have the responsibility of caring for others and providing them a safe place. And guess what? They still had to pay November's rent. So they had been promised a generator. The generator, I don't believe the generator never came, right?
No, they had to buy their own. Some of them had to buy their own.
Yeah. So it's sad. I called everybody that I could. We got the county involved. We got even the Senator Rick Scott was involved in this situation, and it's sad that this happened. But I'm extremely proud of of the work that the city did to make sure that those people got the proper care that they should have received probably day one. But thank you, Kara. We're going to miss you. I hope that, you know, at some other point in your career, we cross paths again. So thank you so much. And to PBSO here, thank you for what you guys did over in Tampa. That meant so much. You should be extremely proud of your team, Captain Moore. And also that goes for fire rescue, but they're probably out there saving lives. So thank you so much. That concludes my remarks.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, meeting's adjourned.